Hello Year 11, my name is Michele Miller and I'm really looking forward to working with you today to think about how we revise effectively. Now after Christmas I'll come in and work with you as you prepare for your GCSEs in the summer, but we felt it would be really helpful to do some work ahead of your mocks so that you can practice some of the activities, the skills, the techniques that we're going to work with you on and use those around your mocks. And that will enable you to practice those skills and learn from them as you prepare to then go into the GCSEs later in the year. So the purpose of my session with you today is to really think about how you manage your time effectively. And time management is probably one of the most difficult skills for students to get right. But actually, once you know how to do it, it's a case of trying a new skill and working with it. Before we start really thinking about time management, there are a couple of things that I will talk to you a lot more about when we get together after Christmas, but is worth just kind of being clear about now as well. The first one is that you probably, when you look at other students, think that everyone else seems to enjoy revision and that they seem to find it easy. And that's just not true. It's incredibly rare to find anybody who likes going home to revise. And so when you're feeling that you don't particularly want to do it or you're finding it difficult, you can feel quite alone. But the reality is that very few people find it easy and like doing it. I've done many exams so far in my lifetime, and I can promise you that not once have I gone home excited to revise. But what I have done is felt that it is worth revising because there's something that I want that qualification to help me to achieve. So it's really important to get this right, because without understanding why you want to revise, you're probably not going to do it. So we're just going to do a little bit of thinking so that over the coming weeks you can really start to explore how you feel about what I'm going to say. So as I've said, we often look at other students and think, well, they must just be different to me. They're luckier, they're cleverer, they're more successful than me. I could never be like that. And that's one of the ways that a 15, 16-year-old brain works. It's very good in telling you that you're not good enough, telling you that other people have got everything sorted and you haven't. But that's just how your brain's working right now. And I'm here to tell you that you don't need to be extraordinary to be successful in your exams, but you do need to work hard. And so what I'm going to say here is, just recognise that if you start revising well now, at the beginning of the second half term in the autumn, in November, and you then work hard to prepare for your mocks, you're going to learn a lot about how you study, how you revise, how you sit exams. And all of that information will be really helpful to you as you then prepare for your actual GCSEs later on this year. So, lesson number 1, nobody likes revising, or very few people do. Most people find it difficult. Most people put it off because it's not much fun. And most people feel that everyone else around them is doing a really great job. And that's just not true. Everyone is finding this hard. But it's all within your grasp. You don't need to be super special. You don't need to be extraordinary. You just need to work hard and put some time in. We know, as I've already said, that very few people don't enjoy revising. So I want you to really think about why you're revising. Because when you don't like doing something, we tend to do what's called procrastinate. We put it off. We look for other activities to do instead of the thing that we don't want to do, in this case, revising. So I'm going to just share a little analogy that I think is really helpful to explain this. Here's somebody who's crossing a river. They're putting an awful lot of effort into crossing that river. So why are they doing that? They're prepared to put themselves in a position that's uncomfortable, potentially cold and wet as well. But there must be something on the other side of that river that makes this crossing worthwhile. And that's how I'd like you to think about revision. Revision is cold, it's wet, it's uncomfortable. It's the stuff that you don't particularly want to do. However, you're prepared to do it to get what's on the other side. And that's really how I'm going to ask you to think about your GCSEs. GCSEs will not make you any better a person than you already are. You know that we all believe that you are an incredible young man, young woman, and with so many skills and talents. So GCSEs won't make you any better than you already are. But what they will do is give you some choices in your life. So if you can work out your why, you're going to work hard. So again, revision is a bit like a sports person who's training, perhaps getting up at all hours of the morning to get training before other people get out and about. Perhaps you miss out certain social activities because you have to go to an event or train. And again, training is not always fun, but it's what I have to do if I want to go out and perform. So what I'm talking about here is figure out your why. Why are you prepared to revise? What is it that having GCSEs is going to be making this journey worthwhile? Now, if you're a sports person, perhaps you'd say, well, I want recognition for being an expert. Perhaps you'd say, I really want to be a great role model. Perhaps you'd say, I want to make my family proud. Perhaps you talk about the fact that you want to give something back to a sport that you have grown up with and loved. Perhaps you talk about the financial gains and maybe even being recognised as somebody at the top of their game. And you can use all of those examples to us, who are not necessarily professional athletes. So why do you want qualifications? Perhaps you're passionate about a particular subject or idea, and you want to devote your life to finding out more about it. Perhaps there's a problem in the world that you're really keen to be part of solving. Perhaps you want to make your family proud. Perhaps you want to earn a load of money and have a fantastic lifestyle. And all of those are different motives or different reasons as to why people say why they're prepared to work hard. So your why isn't about what career do you want. Your why is what will your qualifications enable you to do with your life. And once you've figured out your why, then you're far more likely to work hard, i.e. do the revision that will get you there. So before we go into kind of time management, I think it's really important to figure that out a little bit, because if you don't have a why, then it's going to be really difficult to motivate yourself to sit down and do some preparation for your mocks and your exams. So revision, it is uncomfortable, but it is also a habit. And I'd like you to think about this in 3 different ways. So firstly, reframe how you think about it. So rather than saying, I don't want to do revision, I don't like it, think about the fact that I'm just going to use this to cross that river, to get me to my goals. So reframe the fact that it's necessary, even though it's not what you would necessarily choose to do. So change how you think about revision or reframe it. Secondly, make it part of your routine. So a little bit of revision every day is far better than a big chunk once a week. So maybe find out the times in your day when you're prepared to sit down and do some revision so that it becomes part of your routine. And you'd be surprised at how quickly something then just becomes part of a habit. And then finally, after you've done your revision every day, look forward to doing something else that you do enjoy. Whether that's watching something on the television for half an hour, watching a movie, gaming, talking to your friends, having a cup of tea with your dad, whatever it is that you do, just make sure that you build in a little reward every day. Rewards don't have to be financial. They don't have to be about things, but it can just be about sitting down and doing something that you enjoy. Perhaps go and do some exercise, playing some sport, playing a musical instrument, listening to music, whatever it might be, but have something every day that you think, oh, that half an hour, that hour of my day is what I'm really looking forward to. Okay, so now in this part of this clip, what we're going to start really thinking about is the importance of planning your time. And we've already thought about the fact that your revision needs to be efficient, and that means that you work really effectively. So if you're going to sit down and work for 30 minutes, you get 30 minutes of revision done. You don't sit there for 30 minutes, but actually only get 10 minutes of work done. So it's efficient, so it's a good use of time, and it's effective. It does what it's supposed to do. Now, revision is usually about two things. Firstly, getting things into your long-term memory and being able to get them out again. And secondly, practicing past questions so that you build the skills and competencies that are needed to be successful and get as many marks in every question as you can. And so you'll be doing some work with Miss Evans and Mr. Collard about some other strategies that you could be using as well. But we're going to focus particularly on time management in this session. Now, you might be surprised to hear that a good revision session at home is only about 30 minutes long. This is all based on something called Pomodoro timing, which I can tell you about after Christmas. But for now, just understand that you don't have to be sitting there revising for an hour and a half. It's all about being really high quality in your revision and making sure that it is effective and efficient. So a high quality 30 minutes is far better than an hour and a half sitting there kind of going in and out of revision and being maybe less effective. If you can't face doing 30 minutes, I'm going to say to you, don't worry about that. Just sit down and do 10 minutes. Because the longer you put it off, the harder it is going to be to get going. So if you're thinking, I can't face sitting down and doing 30 minutes revision, so I'm not going to do Annie, I'm going to ask you, if you can't face doing 30 minutes, just do 10, because then at least you're 10 minutes better off than if you've done nothing. And what will happen is after you've done 10 minutes, and you've done that a few times, you'll see that it's not so bad. And then you'll start to get going, and you'll find it less of an issue because it will start to become a habit. I noticed there on the slide I said 15 minutes, but do a shorter amount of time, but just start doing something. And if you can do that every single day, again, you'll be surprised at how quickly that just becomes a habit that feels better than you thought it was going to. So make it as easy as you can for yourself as well. Think about where you're revising. Are you in a space that is distraction-free? Because again, we can only get away with these short, high quality chunks of 30 minutes if they are high quality. So high quality isn't lots of noise around you. High quality isn't lots of distractions. High quality isn't your phone interrupting you every few minutes. So think about where you work in your home. Think about what distracts you and how you can make sure that those distractions are not there whilst you're studying. So you give yourself the very best possible chance to focus. So let's move on now to really thinking about how you go about planning. Every single year I meet students who say, Miss, I don't need a plan to revise, it's all up in my head. And every year, those students who didn't make a plan come back to me and said, I wish I'd listened to you. You have to make a plan. And your plan could be on paper. It could be on a Google Doc in your phone or a Google Calendar on your phone if you wanted to. We'll talk about that in a moment. But if you don't make a plan, you're actually far less likely to go and do your revision. And that's proven in research. Once you write something down, you're far more likely to do it. You're far less likely to revise what you need to revise. I'll tell you a little bit more about that shortly. And you're likely to give up far more quickly if you haven't got a plan. So it's necessary to have a plan. And I'm just going to ask you to trust me on that one and decide that you're going to make a plan. Later on, I'll show you the plan that I would use, and you're welcome to have an electronic copy of that. You can use a diary, you can use a plan that you've downloaded from the internet. As I said, you could do it electronically. It's up to you, but you do need to have a plan. And the difference between an electronic plan and a written plan is just different people like doing things in their own way. So the benefits of having an electronic plan is that your phone's usually with you and you can note things as you go. But it's on your phone, which can be a distraction. And also you're not sharing that plan with somebody else. So if you have a paper plan and you put a copy of it on your fridge in the kitchen, then other people in your family know what you should be doing when you should be doing it. And some people find that quite helpful because then their family members can say, oh, aren't you supposed to be doing some geography now? Or, how did that history go that you've just been doing? And that can help some people. Not everybody wants that. Some people are quite happy to do that on their own, and therefore an electronic or digital plan is perfectly fine. I think it's about being honest with yourself and knowing who you are, knowing what works for you, and deciding how you're going to go from there. So let's take a look at what a plan might look like. Now, a couple of things to begin with. Number one, this would be perhaps what a plan might look like when you're only revising and you haven't got any homework. So this would not be for right now because you're still getting some homework. Okay, so this is not something that I'm going to be saying that you should be doing right now. So that's the first thing to say here. Second thing to say is that this is the plan that I will give you if you would like to use it. But this is what we would expect a regular revision plan to look like. Now, I'm showing you this one first because this one straight away has got some problems in it. So take a look there. You can see that, for example, at 4:30 on a Monday, this person has said they're going to do maths. And at 6:30 on a Wednesday, they've said they're going to do RE. So you can put your own timings in. You don't have to do the same things at the same time every day. You can change the timings to suit whatever's going on for you. And the next thing to say is that this is not good enough. And there's a really good reason for that. So let's have a look at what it should look like if it was even better. So just remember, let's look at Monday first of all. So we've got maths, chemistry and geography going on a Monday, and it should look more like this. So what's happening here? So that maths session on Monday at 4:30 is now reverse percentages. And the chemistry is a revision session on tests for gases. And the geography revision is about sustainable water supply. So the difference here is that we haven't got the subject name, we've got the topic name. So we haven't got maths at 4:30, we've got, I'm going to be revising reverse percentages in maths. So it's very, very specific. And that's incredibly important because what this student will have had to do is RAG, or red, amber, green, all of their topics. Now, this person has said that they find reverse percentages to be a little bit difficult or hard to remember for them. So they've given that a red. Whereas percentage changes is an amber and ratio is a green. And what we know is that people tend to revise what they already are good at, which is a waste of time and not very efficient. So we want to prioritise those topics that you find more difficult. So the first activity you need to do is break topics down into what you find red, amber and green, and then you prioritise the red and the amber first. Now, without a plan, what you would do is you would go home, flick through your maths book thinking, oh, what shall I do today? And you'd probably land on something like ratio because you quite like it or you feel confident about it. And that is not effective revision, because what we know is that the stuff that you would call green is probably already, a lot of it will already be in your long-term memory because you like it, you're thinking about it, and it comes easier to you than perhaps other topics. So with that in mind, we've now got back to this idea that, you don't want to just have maths and chemistry and geography, because you will spend the first few minutes of those revision sessions thinking, what shall I revise? And we don't want to do that. So second thing, let's look at another example. I'd like you now just to think about, what's the problem with this one? So just give you a few moments just to look at that. This is not a good plan. So we know that it's not very good because it's got the subject name in, but there's also another problem with this one. And hopefully you're starting to see that the problem here is that there are too many sessions of maths. So by prioritising their maths and doing lots of maths revision, there are other subjects that this student is not doing, is not revising. And what might happen with the student is that they come out with a fantastic maths result, but because they've neglected other subjects, they don't get those 5 GCSE passes that are necessary to choose their next steps. And that's something that we can kind of see quite a lot. It happens in some of those subjects that can take up a lot of time. Some of the creative subjects as well, that we spend lots and lots of time on those and we neglect other subjects. So again, a plan helps you very quickly to see where you're over generous on some subjects and under generous on others. And that's why colour coding your plan can be really helpful, because literally at a glance you can see that this student has given a little bit too much time to maths. But be careful, this is not an activity about making beautiful revision plans. Colour coding them is literally just a coloured scribble over it, over the name. Please don't spend hours making beautiful colour coded revision plans. That is not the point. And you've seen there that we've thought about, what's going on in the week, but you might be thinking, what's happening at the weekend? Now, at the weekend, you might decide to do some revision on one of the weekend days and no revision on the other. But you could also maybe think about splitting it so that you do a little bit on each of the weekend days, but you do need to be revising at the weekend as well as in the evenings. So the next thing I really just want to say is that we've been talking about high quality revision of 30-minute chunks. You don't have to stop revising at 30 minutes. If you're in a flow and it's going well and you need to work for another 10 or 15 minutes, that is of course fine. But it just helps us to remember that it's about high quality, short bursts of revision rather than sitting there for hours feeling fed up that you're having to do it. Okay. Now, Stanford University tell us that if you are interrupted during your revision, it will take you 11 minutes to refocus. So for that reason, again, I'm just going to remind you that your phone shouldn't be anywhere near you when you're revising, that you need to usually put it out of the room so that you're not even tempted to go and check, and try and make that revision session as distraction-free as possible. So last bit then really from me is just to say, we've looked at some of those revision plans and we've thought about different amounts of revision in different days. And I think a really nice technique for planning your time is to think about having gold days, silver days, and bronze days in each week. Now, your gold days are going to be when you do the most revision at the end of the day. Silver is slightly less, and bronze is less again. So this student, for example, has said the most revision I'm prepared to do in an evening is 4 sessions of 30 minutes. That's my gold amount. It could be 5 or 6 nearer to the exams. And if you stay behind to do an intervention after school, then that of course counts as one of those revision sessions. And the student might have 2 gold sessions in a week, or maybe 3, and then they'd have maybe a couple of silver revision sessions as well, and maybe a bronze. But the bronze nights are a good time for you to do other activities and take a little break, because if you're working really hard, as we know that you are, it's also important to make sure you've got some balance and that you're doing activities that you enjoy as well as your school work and your study. So think about gold, silver and bronze. The 4, 3 and 2 here, that's, you can change that up a little bit. If you want to do more, you can. If you want to do less, you could. But remember, we want you next August to be really celebrating results that you've worked hard for. So it is going to be making sure that you do enough revision so that you feel that you are in a really good place to earn those grades. So let's go back and now see what this looks like in terms of one of the plans that we've talked about earlier. So you can see that there on a Monday, it's a gold night. So I've got 4 half an hours planned in. You can see that on a Tuesday, it's a bronze night. So that could be the night that I go and do my rugby training, or I go and see a friend, or I go to band practice, or whatever it might be that I enjoy. Wednesdays, we're back to a gold. Thursday and Friday are silver. This person's decided to take the whole Saturday off. And then on a Sunday, they then do a gold day. Okay. So it's really helpful to have this plan because you're very clear about what you're doing and when you're doing it. Questions I often get asked are, how much time should you take between two revision sessions? There isn't any evidence to say that you should take a long time or a short time. It's more about working out how you get the best out of yourself. So if you're somebody that likes to go home and get on with work straight away, then you could probably have, a couple of hours of work done before 7 o'clock in the evening with little breaks in between, and then have the rest of the evening off. Other people like to do a half an hour, have a half an hour off, do another half an hour, have another half an hour off. But obviously that then spreads it longer over the evening. And it's about then sort of thinking about, well, what's going on in my own life? What else are you juggling? And making sure that it fits around that. So this student that followed the timetable on the previous slide, that's the gold, silver and bronze week that we just looked at. Now, the dark grey here is free time. And most students are pleasantly surprised when they see that, because we're looking at the whole week now. So along the top there, you've got 4 p.m. through till about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And this student, they're doing 3 gold nights a week, or 3 gold sessions a week, because Sunday is one of them. They've got 2 silver on Tuesday and Thursday, where they're going to do 3 half-an-hour sessions. And on Friday, that's their bronze night. And the rest of the time is for them. So you can see that actually for over 50% of your time is actually your time. And if you followed that pattern, you would actually achieve 20 revision sessions in a week. Now that's 10 hours. Now think about it. You spend, about 6-7 hours at school. So you're spending the equivalent of more than a whole extra school day revising every week. But in that dark grey, that is your free time. So when students see that, they generally tend to think, oh, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I can see that there is plenty of time for me to do the things that I want to do and enjoy doing, as well as my study. So hopefully that's leaving you with a sense of, yes, this is hard work, but it isn't at the expense of doing the things that you enjoy doing. And that's a blank copy of the revision plan that I'm really happy to give you. Now, what we haven't talked about are the boxes in the other parts of this plan. And what I'm just going to say here is that you can use those in whatever way you feel helpful. There's a reason behind each of those boxes. I think it's probably fairly self-explanatory. Some people like to know how many weeks they've got left until the exam, because that kind of motivates them. Some people think that it's quite useful to have a goal for the week. So you might think, right, this week I'm really going to understand half-life. It's something that I have found really difficult up until now, but my goal this week is to really get half-life. Wins this week. It's really important to capture the things that are going well and that you're happy about. Rewards, just jot down a couple of things that you would really look forward to doing this week or at the weekend once you've done all of your study. And then that box along the bottom, what I didn't complete or what I need to revisit or things that I need to ask my teacher. It's just a space on your plan to be able to jot down something, I must go and ask Sir about this thing that I'm finding difficult. And it just gives you a space that you can just make sure that you've got a plan for doing everything that needs to be done. So that's our session on time management and planning. So what are you going to stop doing as a result of listening to that? Perhaps you're going to stop just randomly revising topics. Maybe you're going to really think about prioritising those topics that we're going to call red, or those ones that you find most difficult. What are you going to try? Perhaps you're going to download a paper plan and you're going to try that, or indeed a digital or electronic one. And what are you already doing that is really helpful, that you're going to keep on doing? And I think just doing your traffic lights there helps you to really kind of make some actions, or to agree some actions with yourself as a result of listening to this presentation today. So I really wish you every success with your time management going forward. Remember, if it's not something you've been doing already, this is quite difficult. And so you shouldn't expect to get it right first time, but do stick at it. And if you're getting this stuff right most of the time, then you're going to be in a really great place. It's not about being perfect. It's not about sticking to your plan religiously every day, but making sure that most of the time you're getting it right. And then you'll be really, really well prepared for those mocks. So thank you for listening.